when I got to know these people and infiltrate the lifestyle, I started to have empathy for them.
That was you.
Yeah.
You took my next question, so let's go right to that. I was wondering if, like, even what I was going to ask, but to be even a little more specific, though, is even some of the people that you would characterize as, like, kind of the worst in that end of it, being around them every day, of course, seeing a lot of bad that they do constantly, but, like, you're learning intuitively or maybe sometimes personally based on having conversations with people exactly kind of where people are coming from or how they got into this and stuff like that. Is there a part of you going, damn, like if other things had happened in this person's life, they wouldn't be this person?
Actually, I turned it. If I was in this person's shoes, I would also be selling drugs.
Right.
Because when you take opportunity and education away from someone, they're going to figure out how to survive. And this is a supply and demand issue. He is, probably no different of an entrepreneur than I am. He saw the demand, he figured out where the supply was, and he's selling it. And it's a hierarchy very similar to probably what he sees society as. So he sees as in society as he is the bottom of the pool because he's poor. He's black, and he has no education. But when in the drug dealing world, he's in the top of the hierarchy. He's the dealer, not the user. So they typically look down. Dealers never use their own shit.
Yeah, all the good ones.
Yeah, the good ones don't use their own shit.
Interesting word, but
right.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, because they know that once you start using, you're off your game, and then you just become another crackhead.
They pick if I'm understanding what you're saying, and I would agree with it if this is right, but like they pick the playing field that they're able to work the class structure on, like where they can work, be at the top end of the world. And since they view that as really the only option, they're like, well, that's the one we're going to play in, and that's where we can be top dog.
Right. And, humans will figure out how to survive. And so when I started to have empathy for them, that was my entire thought process was, well, wait a minute. If I wasn't educated, if I didn't have the opportunities that I have now, and I wasn't white, I would fucking be selling drugs too.
Yeah.
To survive, to feed my family and myself or whatever they're doing. And it's violent, and it has, not a long longevity for that type of business, but it's a chance that they take because they see no other option.
Right. Yeah, my buddy Josh, who was actually on this podcast earlier on, episode 54, he's one of my closest friends from college, just awesome dude who I've learned a lot from in my life. But he was a rare guy in a lot of different ways. He is from the projects in the Bronx.
Yeah.
But what he was gifted with is he had both of his parents together, and they were incredible parents. His mom is literally like the teacher at the school right there.
Wow.
And so he had, in that way, he had a very solid environment, which he doesn't discount at all. But he was also like special, like he was intelligent. And so he happened to get into one of those programs because of just being able to do some things that other people couldn't, that then matriculated him on a different pathway, starting especially at like, I want to say it was like age 11, started to split. And that led to all kinds of opportunities that he, to his credit, knocked all of them out of the park. And he deserves all the credit in the world for that. But he told me a story one time, and I've told it before on this podcast at least once, but it affected me a lot in how I think about where the fork in the road happens for when it comes to like environment and what people do. But he was telling me about one of his close friends when they were kids growing up in the same neighborhood, and he was not on the track that Josh was. And so at some point when Josh got to high school, this program then let him go into a high school program where during the week he went to school in suburbia and lived out there, and then would come home I think on the weekends, but I think it was like when he first went out there, like the first 6 months, you had to be out there like the whole time, like not even home on the weekends. So what I believe it was, if I'm remembering correctly, I always remember this part a little differently, but the story remains the same. He comes home for the first time in a while, whatever it was. And when he gets onto a street after getting off the subway, he sees his buddy. And his buddy's on the corner. And they're both like 14, 15 years old. They're young. And I give his friend so much credit in the story, but it's also very sad. His friend sees him, and his expression immediately changes to a combination of, happy to see you, but what the fuck are you doing here? And he walks up to Josh, and he goes, hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? Like, what's going on? You doing well out there? Good. Like, you're representing all of us. Keep doing your thing.
Right.
And he takes him and walks him across the street and says, now don't ever walk on that side of the street again, and keep doing what you're doing. Don't come back. And like they went their separate ways, and they looked at each other, and there was an understanding there.
Right.
And I'm like,
that's a perfect example of one person has an opportunity that the other one didn't have.
Exactly. And I give his friend
100%
a ton of credit.
Yes.
And so does he.
Because he could have tried to suck him in.
Yeah.
Or, whatever. There's a multitude of things.
It's a powerful story for me, and I think it can be for a lot. That's why
huge.
I like telling it. Because
Huge.
It's for a lot of people. But that environment, I hit on it over and over again. And it's like the smallest little things can change it. So the fact that you could see that. Oh, yeah. Seeing awful shit, too. Like, they're drugging people up. I mean, this is a bad.
It is. It's bad. It's bad. And, I looked at it, though, and to be quite honest, there's not a lot of difference between the drug trade and the sex trade. And often the two commingle, but you have a supply and demand issue. And again, I think it's an opportunity type thing. Perhaps, a 14-year-old girl gets pregnant. Maybe that takes her life off the wrong rails. She needs money. She's going to start selling her body for it. And she's so disgusted by it that she starts to take drugs to numb that. Well, then she becomes a drug addict. You see, it's just perpetual. It just keeps going and going and going. And I just think the way our society is treating both drugs and the sex trade are moronic. They're not helping at all. You're never, ever going to get rid of the supply and demand for drugs or sex. So why not regulate it?
Yeah. No, it's a conversation we've had on this podcast with different people.
Oh, have you? Okay.
A lot. Yeah, so, it's a great conversation.
Most cops would probably say, what the fuck is she talking about? That's horrible. But I've been in it. So I've seen it up close and personal, and I can tell you that it's the reason that I got out. It's why am I putting my life at risk for $40,000 a year? And the minute I buy $300 of crack, 3 million more is on the street. Yeah. It's not going to make a difference, and we're tackling this all the wrong way. If you give these people opportunity and an alternative, you could potentially turn around a lot of lives.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.